Okay, and now we're back with reading number two. And reading number two is another predictive forecast in a way. I'm just going to go ahead and review the question that came in from the guest that requested this reading. So I'll just kind of get this on the screen and then we will kind of edit out her name and everything, but this is another one of our Masters Club members, and she got a reading request in for April. Let's have a look at her question. Okay, and actually this VIP, this Masters Club member is receiving a longer reading this month. Because she was actually due a longer reading in her enrollment month, and for some reason didn't receive it. I've had a few. I've had to take on a few of my very first staff members in my business over the last 2 or 3 months, and I think somehow this person's first VIP reading got missed, so she actually gets a larger reading this month for that reason. So this was her question, and it was a longer question, and so I gave it a longer answer in the 12-month spread that you'll see us bring forward here right now. So she says, my plans to start my meditation group are on hold again for a bit, as my husband has just taken redundancy from work and has decided to take some time off as the work is not there at the moment. So for the next couple of months or so, he wants to do things together, like going on a road trip to visit family and friends. We have a 23-year-old special needs son who lives with us, who doesn't want to go. And my eldest son says he will sleep at our house as much as he can to be with the younger son and the pet. But I'm feeling guilty and concerned about going for more than a week at a time, as it's disrupting to both their lives. Maybe a couple of trips for a week or so would be better than one long one. How can I go away without feeling burdened by the situation? My husband and I really want some quality time alone, as he's been working long hours and a fly-in, fly-out, high-pressure job. We'll all be okay when we go away, and we're probably leaving later this week. So the content of this larger 12-month spread is just perfect for you this month, and I'm so thrilled that you got to be guest number 2, because it seems like you really are at a time in your life, and this is the first card that came through in your reading, and your reading came up as more of a solar plexus centered reading for the month, just so you know. But I brought through the 12 petals of the annual forecast for you through that sort of solar plexus feeling information that started coming through. And what I found was that where you're at right now feels secure in some ways. The first card that came up for the month of Taurus, which we are now in, the month of Taurus feels secure all of a sudden, in that you and your husband have done a lot of hard work and you have gained a lot of security, so you want to go off on a trip. But it feels like, you know, if you go away for too long, there's going to be monsters at the door and terrible things are going to happen when you leave. And I can completely relate, not as a parent of a special needs son, but as a parent of 2 kids. And my oldest is 14 and my younger is, she's 11. So I'm in a similar boat in that my partner and I are planning some trips away. But that wouldn't be possible for me if they didn't have a wonderful grandparent that I could send them off to, and they visit their grandmother in Canada every summer. So that's a really nice thing that I have that a lot of parents don't have available to them when they want to go off somewhere because they finally feel financially stable and that they should reward themselves for all of the hard work that they've been doing. So honestly, the feeling that I get looking at how this is feeling energetically for you today in the month of Taurus is that it is feeling like the image on this card. This is an image from the Circle of Life Tarot, which is a really beautiful tarot deck with very alternative images on it, in that I don't see much correspondence between the images in the Circle of Life Tarot and the I don't see much correspondence between that image and the images on the Rider-Waite-Smith inspired tarot decks. These are very, very different images. The publisher of this deck is Lo Scarabeo, and it's just a stunning deck. I don't know too much else about it, but the image here clearly shows that there's sort of a keeping of the order going on, and it feels like we are keeping something at bay. Some horrible mishap that is about to happen is being kept at bay and kept from entering the door of our secure little retreat world. So that is how this is sort of feeling. So I do actually think that the plan to do numerous smaller getaways would be a very, very good one for you. And so I think that getting the 12-month predictive reading here, the Grand Circle reading, where I'm going to show you a card that corresponds to each of the 12 upcoming months in the year. So this is for this month, the month of Taurus. And then the next card that I'm going to show you corresponds to the month of Gemini that comes right after the month of Taurus. And so for that month we have the Five of Wands. So I can tell you a little bit about the flavor energetically of each month of this year. And that might help you plan what sort of getaway, what sort of retreat might be best to do energetically for that month. So I think it's a really good fit to answer your question this month through this 12-month cycle reading. And this is going to be a little bit of a longer reading than a normal Masters Club monthly reading would be. So my intention there, many apologies for the transition. You were sort of one of my very first master students in, and you definitely experienced my rapid growth when I got you guys in at that early bird special level in February. And since then, my master's group has tripled this month. So it's really just sort of taken on a life of its own, and I've had to take on some staff, which is great. But in that sort of interim transition period, I think somewhere we lost your February reading. So I'm going to give you one of the extra long readings this month just to make up for that, because that was supposed to be your larger reading, I believe, and I think you got a part 1 but not a part 2 somehow. So we're going to go ahead and make that up to you now and give you one of the larger readings of this month. And these larger readings are usually reserved for some of our newer students because they very often haven't had the benefit of a reading from me before. So in the next month, the month of Gemini, we have the Five of Wands as the card that's representing here. And this is the card that you want to see, because really and truly your creativity and your ability to enjoy and get passionate about things that are just for you in your life, that please you, has been in a way inhibited by having to parent a special needs child, and you've had a lot going on and it's been really busy, and there just hasn't been much time for you and your creative passions and your needs. And that's true for you guys as a couple as well, and how you connect to each other. So these trips are long overdue, but really and truly just the acknowledgement of the need to nurture your own creativity and your own creative passions is coming to the surface in the month of Gemini. And so this would be a really good month to do a trip that is perhaps based upon an arts or a cultural or a sporting event that you and your husband would enjoy, that would maybe only take a weekend or something to go in and do an amazing event and just sort of turn up the energy on feeling more freed up as a couple and liberated as a couple. And you're right, that could only take a couple of days, and that really does seem to be a good fit energetically for what is happening for you in the month of Gemini. Moving on to the month of Cancer, we have the Four of Swords reversed here, meaning that after getting back from your first trip, it might feel like some things went wrong and maybe you want to do some adjustment, because, leaving for the first time when you've never really left before is always the trickiest time to leave any child situation. So there will be sort of a regrouping period, really, after the first trip, and that's inevitable. That's going to happen. You're going to see how the first trip went, and you're going to see where you succeeded and what went wrong, and you're going to adjust accordingly. And that's just what you're going to have to do. Now, you're going to feel a resistance to doing that work, at looking at how it actually went when you tried going away the first time. And that's why this card is probably coming up as reversed. So what is happening here is basically we really, really, really want everything to have gone wonderfully, and we're also going to be sort of feeling a little defensive because in a way, even though we shouldn't, you get put in a situation like this and you're going to feel some guilt when you return. It's completely normal as a caregiver, and you've got to really work and self-talk yourself through that feeling of guilt, and come out the other end of it, because you shouldn't be feeling guilty for taking time for yourself. This is very long overdue, but you will, and there'll be a compensation and a defending that is prone to happen in communication, especially between you and your husband. So just be especially sensitive after you come back from this first trip, which you should conclude at some point in the month of Gemini or early month of Cancer coming up, where you really are going to want to be especially sensitive of each other's communication habits. Make sure that you positively reinforce the experience that you've had. Even if, something happened and you needed to regroup, don't focus on what went wrong during your trip. Reinforce what went right during your trip for each other. And that's really the work of the month of Cancer. And then coming to the month of Leo, we have the Nine of Cups, which is the card of just overflowing joyfulness, really emotional joy and sating. And so you're going to feel wonderful in the month of Leo. And so that's a really good month to do something perhaps a little bit longer. Maybe you want to go for 3 or 4 or 5 days away in July or so. And after doing the work and kind of setting the groundwork with the first sort of fly-by-night little tiny cultural experience trip somewhere, what you should be able to do by the time the month of Leo comes along, with the Nine of Chalices energy being up for you, is you should be able to kind of harness that and really let go. You no longer feel guilty. You've sorted out the details. You know it worked once. You can maybe do it better this time now. And you'll be able to really let go and have fun when you go on your next trip. So the month of Leo, around June 21st, 22nd, July 21st, 22nd to August 21st, 22nd, somewhere in there, feels like a really positive time to take a slightly longer trip. And then coming back from that trip, it's going to be doing the work. The Eight of Pentacles is all about just doing sort of the nuts and bolts work, and doing it joyously and with joy and with care and with happiness, after you acknowledge basically that this is the work that needs to be done. So you're going to get back from a trip in the month of Leo, and this is what happens in the month of Virgo, which is all about just taking care of the little needs that need to be taken into, account. And then if you wanted to begin towards taking longer and longer trips, this is the time to really blueprint a lot of this, to systematize things, to write things that you do on a daily basis down on to-do sheets for other substitute caregivers who can then start seeing what needs to be done. And that's going to be an easier process to get together after you've done a couple of these little, experimental trips earlier in the year. So that seems to be the name of the game, and you should be ready for that around late August to September, month of Virgo. And then month of Libra, we have the Seven of Swords for you. Now, the Seven of Swords is an interesting energy to come up here, because this is not about the physicality of the pentacles or the creative fire of the wands that we have seen, or the emotional joy that's possible in the Suit of Cups, the Suit of Chalices. This is about the realm of the mind. This is about the realm of the air sign. And the 7 is the number of compromise and discernment and diplomacy. And sometimes it is a card that is associated with lying. Now, not all of the time, though. But the thing here that is prone to happen is you're going to have to make some communications in about the month of Libra, which is a very good month to do communications in overall. So overall, I'm going to say this looks like something you should start doing for yourself, taking these trips. And to have a couple of challenging cards come up, even though there may be challenges, I see that they're coming up in very opportune times that should be easier to handle those challenges, like the month of Libra, which is where we see the Seven of Swords coming up here. And this is just about being diplomatic, about some sort of communication that might not be the easiest to give, but at this point, you might be ready to maybe sit down and have a conversation with your adult son who lives at home. And he might be able to have a conversation with you about how he's really enjoyed hanging out with the caregivers while you've been away. And, yes, maybe he misses you, but it feels like he's grown up and he's ready to take on some responsibility to help the caregiver when you're gone, and can he help you that way again, or something like that, where it just really kind of formalizes it for him and makes it okay. And in that process, even though that's a difficult conversation perhaps to negotiate, by about the month of Libra, it might be a good idea to harness the opportunity of the month of Libra, which is a very balancing, harmonizing time as far as energy goes for communication and peacemaking. And so this is really the month to do that conversation in, I would say. And then after that, you might get some verbal backlash from your son. The month of Scorpio is the month of Scorpio. This is the month that family gatherings happen in. It's the month of Thanksgiving and November. And here we see the archetype of the devil come up in your reading. So notice the people in this card. They are shackled and chained to this horrible, lazy devil type figure, and they seem to be his servants against his will. And this might be, more than anything, I am imagining that after 2 or 3 really fun weekend or slightly longer than weekend trips with your husband, away from responsibilities that you've had for a very long time, you may be realizing a little more all of the fun you've been missing out on for all of the years that you've been doing this work. And this card showing up in this position would say that because of that realization, perhaps when you go back to what was perfectly normal and you didn't mind one bit a year ago, but putting yourself back in that reality now as the mother today after having, a couple of really fun trips and a taste of a bit more freedom, you might be feeling like your everyday life is a bit of a burden for you, is a bit too much of a shackle, and those might be very powerful feelings that are going to come up, just to let you know. And it's probably just perfect timing for them to come up. This is the month of family gatherings where families come together and support each other. But you're probably going to be feeling that very deeply. So just be mindful that that's probably where you're going to be at. And it may be that really and truly it's best to hold out until the month of December for that reason to do any more trips. Now, the month of December, you might also consider maybe a longer trip that includes your adult son and someone else who helps you with the care of your adult son, so that on a trip as a family you can all go and have an adventure together, and you can become a leader for adventures for your son. I don't know if that's possible, but this Knave of Wands energy, this is basically like the Page of Wands. So this is the energy of someone who is just getting their feet wet in a pursuit of creativity or passion, and they might want other people to come along with them and enjoy with them. And so, if that's possible, that's a good energy around any trip or adventure that you might want to take during the holidays, during the month of Sagittarius. And then during the month of Capricorn, you're going to find that you have had your own inspiration reignited. And it's time now to see what options are on your own table in front of you in the month of Aquarius for where you want to go next, where you want to create next. And you're going to be looking at where you want to go next in the month of Aquarius. You're going to be having a lot more of an idea in the month of Aquarius about what opportunities and possibilities are actually available to you, rather than where you are at today before taking any of these trips and seeing how any of them go. By the time you get around to next January and February, you'll have a much better idea of what is available to you and what is possible for you. And then in February and March, month of Pisces, we have a Ten of Pentacles card, which is a really nice full circle. You should be able to do some really abundant, very fulfilling feeling trip that might involve a little more physical abundance or indulgence, maybe a spa trip or a retreat or something that feels more pampering to you. The Ten of Pentacles card in March suggests that this might be the time where a longer retreat finally becomes possible for you to consider taking. And then next March and April, the month of Aries, the 12th card, is a beautiful card. It is the card of the Lovers, the very powerful major arcana card that speaks to us of our nearest and dearest relationships and partnerships. So I can wholeheartedly say that this is a very good idea. I think it is going to powerfully strengthen your relationship and improve your relationship, both with your husband and with your sons and with your family, who are all there to support you and all love you and just need you to help them by showing them how they can help, at making that to-do list, and getting this responsibility shared, because people do want to help and you are very, very supported. That's how this reading ended up feeling and coming through. So thanks for letting me do this longer reading for you. That's the next 12 months, looking forward for the issue of when to take trips after being home for a very long time as the primary caregiver of an adult son with disabilities. Very powerful reading. It sounds like you have a very powerful year ahead of yourself. Enjoy, and thanks for joining us.